Welcome back to Queensland for the final match on day 2 of the Brisbane International, the opening tournament of 2017. Chris Dennis and Paul Hand with you for this one, and it is, as you can see, the number 7 seed Grigor Dimitrov who'll get us underway against the American Steve Jonson. And what a way, Paul, to get us underway.
Well, it's been well documented how much training this man's been doing all over the ATPWorldTour.com website, and he's been putting in the hard yards. You know, hopefully he'll be feeling edgy as a consequence and not fatigued in that couple of week window that they have.
Well, confident start from Dimitrov, ranked at 17 in the world. Coached by 𝕽𝖆𝖆𝖔𝖘𝖑𝖆𝖛, of course. He's done wonders with this man.
Correction. Replay the point.
First overrule. Steve Jonson without moustache. Last time I saw him live, he was wearing that very impressive Movember moustache.
Dimitrov with a sparkling start here, as indeed he did this time last year, defending quarter-final points from Brisbane here last year. Lost to Federer, 6-4 in the deciding set it was. And went on to make finals of Sydney, losing out to 𝕽𝖆𝖆𝖔𝖘𝖑𝖆𝖛. And he had match point.
Game Dimitrov.
Well, a very confident start, perfect start for Dimitrov to get his 2017 tennis season underway. And as Paul said, been putting in a lot of work in the off-season. We say off-season, Paul, it's really, what, a matter of a fortnight or so?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a tiny window, but of course they grab any opportunity they can. He's been throwing the weights around, he's been doing a lot of speed work and ball pattern work, set play work on the court, and just trying to get that edge so that, as he said, when he comes out of the garage under that strong Australian sun, he wants to be ready.
Talk about Australian sun, it's been a mixed old bag today. We've had heavy showers and thunderstorms which were forecast into the Brisbane evening. And Jonson starting just as Dimitrov started his service game with an ace.
He's a real bullier of the ball, Steve Jonson. I love his kick serve out wide to the advantage court this side. That's the one. Tends to hit it the second serve, particularly with a lot of spin. Likes to get his opponent really wide of the court. And that's his favourite set play, the run-around forehand. Loves to get on top of the point that well. He's got a good aggressive mindset. 2016 was a career year for this man.
It was, wasn't it?
First title at Nottingham. Olympic quarter-finalist as well in singles, bronze medalist in doubles, 4th round of Wimbledon. It's all been happening last year for him. Yeah,
it was a great year. Should say the roof is on here at the Paterafter Arena. It's belting down outside, and those spectators who've got tickets for this one will be mightily relieved. We can see the intention there from Dimitrov, taking the ball early. Quite getting the timing right.
Yeah, back to what you were saying about the rain. Viktor 𝕽𝖆𝖆𝖔𝖘𝖆𝖛 locked on outside court against Yoshihito Nishioka of Japan, a qualifier. 𝕽𝖆𝖆𝖔𝖘𝖆𝖛 took the opening set there. It's all that sort of frozen, well, not frozen, far from it, but they you know, they're not playing. Matches suspended because of rain.
And it doesn't look good, Paul, for the next couple of days either. It's more of the same, I'm afraid. Certainly for Tuesday, some of Wednesday.
Game Jonson.
Well, confident serving starts from both players.
One game.
It's their 6th meeting. Dimitrov leads the head-to-head 3-2. Met 3 times last year, Paul, so busy Busy encounters.
Dimitrov winning the last two, hasn't he? So this man trying to avenge those couple of defeats against him.
Love 15.
A little bit loose there from the Bulgarian.
Yeah, last time they met was in Beijing, China, last year en route to this man's final. He also beat Lucas Pouille, the number 4 seed Rafa Nadal as well, before losing to the number 2 seed Andy Murray in the final. But Dimitrov just does most things that little bit better day in, day out than Steve Jonson, and that's not doing him a discredit. This man spent 4 straight seasons inside the top 30 and been a former top 10er as well a couple of years ago. Got as high as number 8 in the world in August 2014.
Yeah, there's no doubt about the talent that Dimitrov has. If you were with us earlier on, you'd have heard us talking about Bernard Tomic, of course a different player in many ways, but both blessed naturally with lots of talent. And just a question of whether that talent can be eked out and produced on a consistent basis. Dimitrov obviously a higher ranked player than Tomic, but has had his moments, hasn't he, Dimitrov, where you feel he's not quite living up to the natural skills that he's been blessed with.
Yeah, there's been likings, hasn't there, in the media to baby Federer, the way that he plays. It is so elegant and smooth with effortless, easy middling from this man. He doesn't like the comparison, though. He says, well, what are you talking about? Federer's won, like, what is it, 17 Grand Slams? I've done none of that yet.
40,
and it's a label, I think, that probably initially flattered him, but then became a bit of a burden, a bit of a millstone around the neck, because every time people like us and observers and spectators talked about him, it was more often than not with the baby-fed tag attached.
Let's for service.
But he has won 4 titles in his career, all on different surfaces, which give us good indication into his sort of versatility, the way that his game transcends across the different floors. First ever Bulgarian to reach the top 10.
That's good. Threaded through the eye of a needle by Steve Jonson.
Well, he likens himself, or he idolised that Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras growing up, and you can see, in a way, that, you know, glimmers of both those game styles in the way that he plays. The odd serve volley from Sampras and that lovely double-handed backhand. Agassi used to hit that so early, didn't he? And Jonson did that there as well.
Game Dimitrov.
Finished with a flourish by Dimitrov. So on serve in this first set, emphatically under the roof. With the rain belting down, Dimitrov leads 2-1 first set. Decent crowd in here under the roof, with the rain falling very, very heavily here in Brisbane. It's coming up to 9:10 in the evening after another exciting day of action. Victory earlier on for Nicolas Mahut. Incidentally, he's the opponent who awaits the winner of this match in the second round. Mahut coming through against his fellow countryman Stefo Robert.
Yeah, that was a long old grind, that match, wasn't it? 2 hours it took Mahut. One of 5 Frenchmen in the main draw.
Love 15.
And just to give you a feel of where they are in the draw, at the bottom of the top half, Mahut awaiting the winner.
got his eye in, hasn't he? Nice and early. Steve Jonson on both flanks. That was that wonderful early taken backhand in the previous game, and that lovely cross-court forehand.
Yeah, the heavy slice from Dimitrov stayed down really low, and Jonson whipping up the back of the ball there to get the work and security. Lovely finish.
He thought about it and thought, actually, why not? He may be just disappointed here. Oh no, I beg his pardon. Well worth a challenge.
15.
He's found that one.
That was gorgeous, wasn't it? Just a mark of his talent. It was a decent approach from Jonson, but that just flicked past.
That's too good. Really good placement and weight of shot. And his prize, 2 break points.
His game fits well against Jonson. Dimitrov, that heavy knifed cross-court slice, setting up the runaround.
Rather surrendered quite meekly there by Jonson, who shakes his head because he knows he's gifted. A late present there to Grigor Dimitrov, who gets the early break and has the advantage of serving first. So Dimitrov in the ascendancy here, and still annoyed with himself there is Steve Jonson. Jonson, who's ranked 4th in the USA standings. Was briefly, I think, top American, wasn't he?
Yeah, he did go up. I think he's actually currently in second place right now, just behind Isner. Yeah, but he was at sort of back end of the year down at 4th.
Yeah, he finished at 4th at the end of last year, that's right.
15.
Good competition, actually, albeit slightly further down the rankings than Team USA would like, but with Sock and Isner, Jonson, they're not too far apart, actually. 𝖵𝖆. They're all there, or thereabouts.
Young man Ernesto Escobedo as well from the States has qualified, just went out to Kyle Edmund earlier today in a couple of tie breaks. 2 hours and 10 minutes though. Acquitting himself very well, the young American. So following the ladies, so many good female players coming from the States these days. Men following suit. He had a slow start last year, though. Lost the opening round here in Brisbane, Steve Jonson, to Viktor Troitsky. Also in Auckland as well. A bit of a shocker over there. Lost in the ASB Classic to Matthew Barton of Australia, 299 ranked. So he's got no points to defend, the man in blue. That might free him off. But up against it already. It's been a sharp start from Dimitrov. Really is dialed into this one. But training looking good for the Bulgarian. Looks quite underdressed, doesn't he, with his sort of grey t-shirt on.
Unlucky. Yeah, more practice court attire, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, his clothing sponsor won't be thanking us for that comment, but he does look like he's just sort of, rolled down to breakfast at the hotel. Still tennis of the top draw being played by Dimitrov right now.
Looks very comfortable indeed. And the soundtrack of this match is the rain hammering on the roof here in the Pat Rafter Arena. Thank goodness they've got a roof. Talk about the Sunshine State.
Let's first service.
Well, having done the hard work and got the early break, Dimitrov having to work a little bit harder here to make sure he doesn't get broken back straight away. Chance here for Jonson.
Outlet. First service.
Yeah, the server had a little bit of a confidence crisis sort of midway through the year from May to end of June. The 6-match losing streak fell to number 40 on the Emirates ATP rankings, but then recovered it at the end of the year.
Nicely done. Good placement to set up the overhead, which is dispatched with aplomb.
Yeah, very keen footwork around this point and underneath the ball here. There's a real urgency with the way he's getting around the court, Dimitrov.
Wait, please. Please take your seat. Stop moving. Well done. Thank you. Out. Game Dimitrov.
Well, Dimitrov comes through, having been taken to juice comfortably enough in the end. He backs up the break of serve and has taken a firm grip on this first set. And the number 7 seed leads by 4-1. Welcome back to Brisbane, where it's raining cats and dogs outside, but this man, Grigor Dimitrov, the number 7 seed, keeping his powder dry, and has made a very good start here. Very positive start against the dangerous Steve Jonson. Got the early break, as you can see, and Jonson now playing catch-up in this first-round match. Winner will play the Frenchman Nicolas Mahut in the second round.
Better from Jonson, who's only landed 30% first serve so far in the match, and in contrast his opponent double that. But when Jonson does land a first serve, he's 4 from 4. He's got to do it more often. And that's normally a really solid set play of his, where he makes that forehand to good effect, but you can see the consequence of scoreboard pressure. Suddenly there's a little hint of doubt in his mind against the player that he's lost to in 2 successive matches last year.
Great retrieving from Dimitrov there, who turned defence into attack very nicely under pressure. Yeah, the Jonson victory that came last year was at Wimbledon, wasn't it? Significantly. So that was a great time and place to record a win for him. Too good. Really nice. Very clean volley.
Yeah, this was much more akin to what we're used to seeing from the American number 2. Really assured point, using the serve and that forehand very effectively. Now, this is where he's been struggling a little, and he's down on second serve.
Oh, it was there, wasn't it? The opening was there, and the opportunity for the taking.
Well, that's his signature shot, Dimitrov as well, the single-handed backhand down the line. Just kissing the tape on that one. But I often worry, you know, about all this loading up for the 2-week pre-year training phase that they do. That there's not a sort of follow-up to it, whether they get weary as a consequence maybe into the Australian Open. Is there a lagged effect?
Quite possibly. Jonson there holding as he had to, minimum requirement. Yes, Australian Open, exactly a fortnight away. Full coverage, of course, here on Eurosport.
He's down 6'3", Dimitrov. Just an inch taller than Jonson, though you wouldn't think so. A bit slimmer, slighter frame, very wiry, quick around the court.
I think the rain is so intense that it's actually leaking through, as
People
you can
putting
see
rain
there.
Macs on as well.
Yeah, they've got their rain Macs on. It is. We are under cover here, but it's so ferocious. You can see, you can hear, and there's a little bit of water coming through there. Lovely. Safe hands with the net from Dimitrov. Again, set the point up quite beautifully.
13.
Jonson just making the point to the umpire that he's slipping around a little bit at that end where the rain appears to be coming down, coming through the roof. Missed opportunity there from Dimitrov.
30-50.
He has looked very secure from the off, though. Backing up a tidy percentage of first serves. Indeed, he hasn't lost one behind his first serve yet. 12 from 12.
Unlucky by Jonson, who did everything right there. Really backs against the wall stuff from Jonson. Well, Jonson's not happy, is he? And that is why, because the rain is getting into the court. It's obviously a roof, but it's not an entirely closed thing, and you can see some of the spectators there. There is actually a gap, isn't there, between the top of the stand and the roof itself, so any wind is driving the rain into the court.
Yeah, you can see it, very apparent. People taking for cover. Torrential storm out there, obviously, and it makes for tricky play as well, because the players can't hear the ball on contact, which makes quite tricky. Something you really rely on.
So we could be in for a short delay in play here while we get the well, what they can do, I don't know actually, because they can't magic some sort of tarpaulin. So we're going to take a short break while the umpire gets some assistance here. Dimitrov, with that early break, is leading by 4 games to 2. And Steve Jonson, as you can see there, venting his frustration. So we'll take a short break and we'll be back with Dimitrov leading 4-2 and 40-15. Well, welcome back to Brisbane, which is anything but the sunshine state at the moment, because just a few minutes ago, as we suspected, play was suspended. The rain is torrential, so much so that it's actually getting onto the court between the gap between the roof, which is on the Pat Rafter Arena, and the gap between the roof and the top of the stands. And the combination of wind and rain has made it impossible for play to continue. Steve Jonson in particular there was unhappy during the last couple of points. So the players have left the court. We don't know how long the rain delay will be. The rain forecast is not good, I can tell you. Thunderstorms and heavy rain are forecast to continue well into the night. And well, Steve Jonson will have some time to just have a break and regroup against Grigor Dimitrov. So until we get warning of when play will resume, we're going to catch up on a match that happened a little earlier. Some of you may have been with us for that match. David Ferrer against the local boy Bernard Tomic. It's a first-round match which took place earlier today. In the meantime, Steve Jonson just in conversation with one of the ATP officials there, and is going to go back to the locker room. So that's the scene here at the Pat Rafter Arena at the Queensland Tennis Centre. Spectators huddling under the rain, which Paul, seems rather bizarre, doesn't it, to say there's a roof on the court and yet people are still getting wet.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in designing the roof you wouldn't have anticipated that it would blow in the side like that, but obviously very strong out there.
So in the meantime, pending a resumption of play here, we're going to catch up on the match earlier today. David Ferrer against the Australian Bernard Tomic. The court has been mopped up and dried, and but it is raining heavily still. A lovely first rally with which to resume play. Both players, Paul Hand alongside me, straight back into the action there.
Wonderful point from Dimitrov there, an exquisite volley to finish the game and seal it. So just as we head towards the half-hour mark, then 5-2 he leads.
Yeah, Grigor Dimitrov has been in great form so far in this match. If you're just joining us, you're very welcome to our coverage here. Chris Dennis and Paul Hand with you for this match, and the reason the players went off was because the rain, which has been absolutely torrential here in Brisbane, despite the roof on Pat Rafter, was getting in the gap between the roof itself and the back of the stands. There's a sort of slice of daylight, and the combination of the wind and the rain meant that it was blowing into the court. Spectators were having to wear their waterproofs, and the rain was getting onto the court surface, affecting one end of the court, where just before the players went off, Steve Jonson in particular was struggling. But the court has been mopped and it's dry. And, But of course, it is still raining heavily in Brisbane, and we can't discount another interruption. You can just see there one or two spectators still wearing their waterproofs. In the meantime, I can tell you, for British tennis fans, Andy Murray will be in action in just under 40 minutes' time. He's playing doubles in Doha at the Qatar Open, partnering Mariusz Fürstenberg, the Polish player, and they'll be playing David Marrero and Nenad Simonic. So that is on the Eurosport Player, if you'd like that, from 12:30 UK time. Steve Jonson then serving to save this first set.
Love 15.
Well, in terms of a little précis, Chris, if viewers are just joining us, this man had a bit of a sluggish start, really. Got his serve broken quite early. But both men very secure behind their first serves. Only conceding 1 point each against their first serves. But for Jonson, he's got to get more first serves in. It's as simple as that. Both hitting the ball nicely.
There's a chance there for Dimitrov. Got the timing just slightly wrong.
15.
How will this delay, only about 27 minutes as we saw, how will that affect Jonson in particular, do you think?
Well, played into his and his coach's hands delightfully. Craig Boynton there is following him round assiduously. And of course, you know, any time that you can break the rhythm or attempt to of an opponent through coming off the court when you're struggling really helps.
Sloppy.
15-30.
And this is a feature of what's happening here, the heavy slice backhand of Dimitrov, which stays so low. We know Jonson likes to run around the backhand and get underneath the ball with the forehand, but of course that's a tough ask with an oncoming slice that's just knifing through the court.
15-14.
Well, a couple of loose shots there has really played into the hands of Dimitrov from Steve Jonson. And within the blink of an eye of the resumption of play, Jonson finds himself facing 2 set points. Lovely play. Wonderful reactions from Dimitrov, who really looks mean and moody here in the business. We heard he'd been working so hard in the off-season, and it's paying fruit. 6-2, he takes the first set.
Sets. Dimitrov to serve.
So Bulgaria take the advantage over the USA in this particular encounter. Emphatically so. 2 breaks of serve for Grigor Dimitrov, who has played a wonderful set of tennis there. Can he keep it going? That is the question.
Well, other than that, it's been a faultless display so far from the Bulgarian, who's just playing beautiful tennis and good all-court tennis as well, which is refreshing. Getting to the net very often. He's been in 10 times now. Won most of those points.
$15.
Teamed up with Daniel 𝕉𝖉𝖔𝖘, previously in Andy Murray's camp, of course. Can you identify any areas that you think that there's been a 𝕉𝖉𝖔𝖘 effect in Dimitrov's game?
I think he's coming forward more, the way he did when he was with Andy Murray, trying to get him up the court more.
30-15.
When 𝕉𝖉𝖔𝖘 was with Thomas Berdych for a while, they in the clay court swing, they opened up a lot of angles on the court. He might have spoken to him about that, but not so much in this kind of swing. It's more power tennis on the hard courts. Use more angles on the clay normally, but that's not apparent. But he looks good. He looks focused and really dialed in from the off here, Dimitrov. And there's been no lapse so far.
Really hard-hitting tennis from both players there.
30 all.
Yeah, hitting the ball so nicely. He can be more expansive now. He's got the opener under his belt, 6 games to 2 in just over half an hour played. But that was a little greedy on that backhand down the line there. The ball was oncoming very fast. Steve Jonson managing to get a bit of a return platform here, like he's for the first time in the match.
Wrong option, went the wrong way. Needed to go cross court. Easy to say, of course, from the commentary position. And Jonson has carved out the first break point on the Dimitrov serve.
Good defence there, and he hit that well down the line. Managed to get it down low and firm to Dimitrov, who was going the other way.
Legs for subs. Mr. Jonson changing the call on the left, far sideline. The ball was called in.
But judging from Johnson's body language, he looks convinced that this was long.
On his other turn,
Wide
second
run.
service.
With good reason.
Game, Jonson.
Well, great start to this second set for Steve Jonson. The break in play has done him good indeed. Chance to just collect his thoughts and regroup. And he's come out and got an early break, the best possible way to resume the match for Steve Jonson, who was a little bit loose in that first set.
Yeah, just sort of looking over their previous 5 encounters, there's been, you know, quite a few tie breaks thrown in there. Almost won every match. So they always have quite close contests, these two. Both top 40 players, and of course this man, former top 10er back in August 2014, number 8 in the world. Down to 17th at the moment, Dimitrov. Now it's about landing more first serves for Jonson. He's done well, to his credit. He's elevating that score. He's now at 55% first serves, but needs to get up above 60, you'd imagine. With the form that the grey-shirted Bulgarian's in, tough to keep him away from the net.
Definitely, he's been very, very good, hasn't he?
Movement sublime. He's just gliding around the court, getting onto the ball at the apex of the bounce very quickly. And when you do go onto the ATPWorldTour.com website, not that I'm plugging it, but you do get a really good snapshot of how hard these top tennis athletes work. You know, when you look at their working day, he was arriving at the Monte Carlo club 8:30 in the morning, leaving often at 6 or 7, just long, grueling days physically. A lot of fun thrown in as well.
Not too long a commute, though, for Grigor Dimitrov, resident of Monte Carlo, of course. One of many.
Absolutely.
Didn't Novak Djokovic walk or cycle? Did he cycle to the country club every day?
Don't remember that.
I'm pretty sure he
Possibly,
did, actually.
yeah.
He certainly didn't take a car. I think he was cycling in every day. Gone long. chance for Dimitrov to retrieve the break here at the earliest opportunity. Frustration for Jonson.
Well, Dimitrov immaculate in break points converted as well. He's only had 2 sniffs and taken both of them so far. Here's number 3.
Juice.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Really good angle generated by Dimitrov. A wonderful Federesque backhand.
Oh, it's gorgeous, isn't it? You know, again, back to the training, you saw him in a side plank position with the elastics, working that backhand and working the back of his shoulder. Look at that. It was so loaded with topspin. Got it up and down so quickly.
Finished off nicely. The break is retrieved at the first opportunity by Dimitrov. And you sense that opening service break aside, Dimitrov really has got the bit between his teeth here. His whole body language, demeanour on court, physically and mentally, just suggests, Paul, that he's really up for this match.
Absolutely, he looks great, doesn't he? There's a real keenness in his foot speed and his whole demeanour, as you say. Absolutely, eloquently put, Chris.
So we're back on level terms in this second set.
Just onto anything short with warp-like speed. And what it's doing is really sort of stifling the American.
Just waited nicely, didn't he? Until Jonson committed and then picked his spot.
And everything that he's doing at the moment has a precision about it. Look at the execution here. Not only hard, but deadly accurate. Of course, when things are going well, it just allows you to be a little bit more expansive, a little bit freer, a little bit looser wristed, more imaginative in your play. And conversely, for Steve Jonson, a hint of self-doubt that sort of stifles him and contains him.
Despite the great start to the set, came out and did the best possible thing. Got the early break, but it's been one-way traffic since. Great athleticism.
Yeah, look at the discipline around the shape there for the dig on the low backhand volley. No stun unturned, getting down there and holding that balanced position. Great athleticism. Oh, simplicity of that. Beautiful.
Yeah, picked it early.
It was the Agassi inspiration, wasn't it? Takes it so early, minimal backswing, catches it out in front and just steers it down the line. Served him well, that return in doubles as well. Olympic bronze medalist in doubles with Sock.
Talking of doubles, a reminder that Andy Murray is in doubles action in Doha in about 20 minutes time, 12:30 UK time, 1:30 Central European. Available on the Eurosport player. As Dimitrov snuffs out another attack from Steve Jonson and retrieves the break, backs it up and leads now in the second set by 2-1. So far so good then in terms of the weather. No more rain breaks or rain delays through the torrential rain we've got in the Brisbane area here. But is there any way back for Steve Jonson, who started this second set very brightly indeed, having been outplayed for most of the first set? He got the early break in this second, but has been broken back. And we're back on serve.
That's
Wonderful
just
accuracy, isn't it?
Audacious, wasn't it? You know, kind of sensed that Steve Jonson went the other way, and 𝕽𝖆𝖉𝖔𝖘𝖑𝖆𝖛 looking rather nonplussed there, but that was an excellent backhand here mid-rally. This one here just glides, it cuts around the inside of the ball there, just so it deflects it down the line.
Not one to show much emotion, 𝕽𝖆𝖉𝖔𝖘𝖑𝖆𝖛. Challenge coming from Dimitrov. No.
15.
Yeah, just suggesting I've got a mark, and the umpire 𝕽𝖉𝖉𝖔𝖘𝖆𝖛 there just saying no, that was another mark from earlier.
30-15.
It is a long way back for Jonson, but you wouldn't bet against it. He's a very, very stubborn, obdurate sort of player, isn't he?
And he's on serve here,
Yeah.
you know. It's only a game adrift.
Can't afford too many of those, though. And 30-all again on the Jonson serve, not making life easy for himself. But he came through the college system, didn't he? Most decorated US college player of all time. I mean, that's an extraordinary achievement. Oh.
40-30.
Well, opting not to challenge unusually there. Yeah, back to that college performance. He was swept the NCAA's team titles in all 4 seasons. Amazing.
And came to tennis, came to the tour relatively late, didn't he,
Yeah.
actually, Jonson?
USC. Incidentally, majored in human performance and hasn't quite attained his degree. He reckons he'll go back and get that after a tennis career.
Game, Jonson.
Well, that was an important hole there for Jonson. Just at 30-all, you just feared from his perspective that things might start to slip away. But he's still in there in the second set. On serve, break a piece.
Interesting stat as well. Both these men have fathers as tennis coaches. Yeah, growing up.
And fathers who have names almost identical to their sons.
Yes.
Steve, his father Steve. And Dimitar, Grigor's father.
Grigor Dimitrov. Wow. It's almost a ditto, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I take my hat off to this man, although he's actually playing in the cap right now. He really has elevated his serving statistics. He was down around 30% first service landed opening set. Now he's at 60%, and he's ahead of Dimitrov, and he's really mounting what looks to be quite a comeback here. I guess I should say a potential comeback. You know, he's still with this match. He hasn't checked out despite being under immense pressure, which is commendable. As I say, he had a career year last year, 2016, the man in blue. Strong mental showing from him.
Game, Dimitrov.
Very, very comfortable indeed from Dimitrov on serve. Raced through that particular service game and moves ahead on serve by 3 games to 2, a break apiece. Approaching 10 local time in Brisbane, with the rain still falling steadily outside. The roof on Putt Rafter Arena doing its job, and thankfully the wind that had caused some of the rain to come in between the roof and the stands is not coming in anymore, and the court is dry. Play is uninterrupted. Which particular page of the textbook do you think that one came out of? Backhand down the line.
That's all the hard work in the mini off-season right there. Look at this. This was a thunderous approach. Good length as well, but Dimitrov got his left foot behind that backhand well to get some sort of scaffold down to work from. And he has been impressive tonight, hasn't he? There's been an urgency in the movement, a real keenness in the eye.
And an outstanding shot, plus a little bit of fortune on the net court there, and all of a sudden, he's 30 love up on the Jonson serve. They need to make that one, and did. Nicely done.
15,000.
Well, considering he's been under the utmost of pressure, that was a big point for him. Good execution there from Steve Jonson. Well, he's starting to really relax on serve now, Jonson. You can tell because the last 2 serves have been so wide, and to carve out those kind of angles needs a very loose wrist.
Out. Deuce.
Interesting particular game here. Love 30, back to deuce.
Yeah, that arrow was spawned by the fact that Dimitrov is moving so well. Jonson feels he has to hit tighter to the lines.
Jonson.
Lovely 1-2. This will have been rehearsed a lot, not only all of last year, but in the practice time prior to this tournament. Set plays.
Deuce.
Slightly blowing hot and cold though, isn't he, on serve? The percentage, as you say, back up to a very creditable 60%, but too many doubles.
He's not had that high percentage of effect behind serve one that Dimitrov has.
Couldn't make it that time, Dimitrov. He's knocking on the door though.
Deuce.
Just pulling off that forehand a little with his head. It's the racket angle just opening a little too much. Micro opportunity here then for the Bulgarian.
Put it wide again. It's a good return from Dimitrov, causing the error.
Now this, Chris, for me, is a real snapshot of how well he's playing, because the top players in the game, the very top, the top tenors, will be taking advantage of this situation 9 times out of 10. Can Dimitrov snatch this break point here? Terrific serve from the American to deny him. But the best find a way, irrespective of what's coming most of the time. Mind you, that was pinpoint, wasn't it?
Too good. You just sense the more juices and breakpoints that Dimitrov carves out here, eventually he'll take one.
Yeah, he's 3 from 5 on breakpoints so far, which is pretty tidy. Look at this, how loose the backhand is. So tough to get a read on as a consequence, and the use of the opposite arm for balance, support through the shot. Still head all the way through that.
Well, there it is. The inevitability does indeed come through. And is that a match-winning break of serve for Grigor Dimitrov, who moves ahead now by 4 games to 2 with a serve to come. And he has looked very, very impressive indeed. Right from the word go. In the mood. And in great shape.
He almost looks double jointed on the backhand, doesn't he? It's just so loose and free. Gorgeous shot to watch. You don't know where he's going. Look at that, just split between down the line and cross court. Jonson not taking that risk.
Equally effective on both sides as well, Dimitrov. Really is. Nicely done. Nice deep forehand on the penultimate shot, setting up the opportunity.
It was a wonderful finish. That was the one that did the damage, wasn't it? Reared up at Dimitrov, and all he could do was yield a short ball. Got what it deserved.
Ladies first service.
Been really tough this evening for Steve Jonson to get an in. There's been very few windows of opportunity for him. Indeed, he's only managed to engineer 1 break point against Dimitrov.
Game Dimitrov.
Drop of the shoulders and a slump of the head for Steve Jonson, because Dimitrov holds, backs up the break, and now leads 5-2, second set. Grigor Dimitrov will be sitting there quietly, pretty pleased with his efforts so far. He's almost there. Must be doubly satisfying at this stage of the season, Paul, to come off the off-season and hit your stride pretty quickly.
And credit to those guys there as well, Team Dimitrov as well. They've worked so hard, spent so much time in the gym, on the practice courts in the off-season there, the mini off-season, I should say. And it served him really well. Nothing better for the whole team to see the fruits of this labour just bubbling up here.
15.
Well, that would have been a wonderful return had it come off. It was extraordinary improvisation there. Let's have another look at this.
Look how supple he is.
Good serve, we should say, by Jonson.
Legs for subs.
Frustration for Jonson, just too many unforced errors, particularly on that forehand side this evening. It's contributed to his own downfall in many ways. Case in point. Well, it's relentless from Dimitrov. He really won't give anything away at all. No free points for Jonson to feed off. And here he is with 2 chances to book his place in the second round. Well played, Jonson.
30-40. For service. Mr. Dimitrov checked in the goal on the right of the line. The ball was gone in.
Ball called in, overruled by umpire 𝕼𝖆𝖔𝖘, and then challenged by Dimitrov.
Goal stands.
Two match point save then by Jonson.
Yeah, some very sharp and timely serving from the American number 2.
Yeah, Dimitrov will want to get the job done here on the Jonson serve. Jonson will at least want to make Dimitrov serve it out.
Advantage, Jonson. Game Jonson.
Well played to the American. Maybe too little too late, but he's kept his chances alive here. And Dimitrov will come out and serve for the match.
Interesting how he's opting for a tighter restring here to return. Just renders a little bit more control on the return of serve, a tighter string bed. Now Dimitrov, who so far has been 91% effect behind serve one, remarkably has been just so dominant in every area of his game this evening. Now armed with new balls as well.
It is only one break of serve, remember.
Love 15.
5 in a row for Steve Jonson now, in terms of points won. Having been 15-40 down on his own serve.
I think it is.
Really good run from him. Bubble bursts. Now Dimitrov regain the reins of control here. Put a lid on this match.
It's the loose forehand again, under pressure from Dimitrov. Frustration for the American. And his coach, Craig Boynton, we saw looking on, powerless. The screw turns a little tighter for Grigor Dimitrov. A third match point, the first on his serve. There it is, emphatically sealed by Grigor Dimitrov to put the final flourish on a wonderfully competent performance here in all departments of his game, right on the money at the beginning of January 2017. 6-2, 6-3 the winning score. It was as emphatic as that, and sets up a second round meeting for Dimitrov against the Frenchman Nicolas Mahut.